Okay, I'm recording.
And now I see it. Perfect. We are all in this together, as you guys have
That's
seen
right.
at multiple points. So thanks. Yeah, it's funny when I'm on what I think to be a really good Wi-Fi connection. Now I'm back on data on my cell phone, and that's going to be the way we're going to have to do it.
Hopefully, I'll be able to find the recording at some point. I'm not sure.
We can work through that. So
okay.
Thank you. That looks like Vicky, Laura Rose, Christy, got Jackie, Miranda, Kurt now on. So thanks to you guys for jumping on. These only work with at least like 3 or 4 folks to make it. So appreciate it, and others will benefit from whatever conversations and questions we can work through. So know that you're making the magic happen by being here. Looks like most folks know, but yeah, I like to mention up front, go ahead and mute your mic. If there's any sort of background noise, I haven't heard anything, so I'm not too worried about it. But and I should maybe say the same, since there is some background noise here. So thanks. Because we are a small enough group, why don't we go and do like a minute of just sort of where you're at, anything else you want to share that maybe didn't come through in some of the discussion, anything else just in your life right now that can allow us to get to know you a little bit better. I will say it's been one of those days for me, so apologies for this being a little bit hectic, but you'll just get that that's sort of my life, and also I think just the life and people in this sort of work, pulled in a lot of different directions, which is fun. I'll be up in Boulder tomorrow at OpenCon. So there's a small conference that I was just made aware of a few weeks ago that CU Boulder puts on around just sort of open publishing and open pedagogy, the sort of rise of OER and open educational practice and that sort of thing. There's a small movement that some may have caught wind of anyway. So this is a small event that I'm helping out with. It's tied into that sort of ethos going on in education right now. So I'll move down the line here. Vicky, thank you for helping out as some backup tech support. If you want to go next and give us a quick minute on where you're at.
Can you just tell me where the Boulder? Would I find that on your Twitter? Are you tweeting that?
I don't think I have done much there. I would just do CU Boulder OpenCon, and I think it'll come up.
Yeah, I have some
people
who would. Yeah. OpenCom, like I think it's a communication.
Con, like conference.
Okay, conference. Okay.
And as in Nancy, yeah, it's I think it's an open and free event. So if they have room and you know anybody up there,
yeah,
pass it on. Yeah.
I will. Well, I'm enjoying my classes so far, and I'm here in Myanmar. My husband's a teacher. He teaches at the international school here in Yangon, which is the major city in Myanmar. I am working remotely for my company that I've been working with for almost 20 years, and we do health education. And primarily, I started off as a video producer and have moved into creating health education via e-learning courses, online apps and courses, and using a lot of media-rich material, writing handouts, facilitator guides. And so I've been naturally kind of moving into this realm, and now I'm kind of like, oh, what am I supposed to know? And also I'm interested in, I love my company, and, but I feel a little bit removed at the moment. So I'm kind of looking around at the development world and seeing how I might be able to apply my skills. And I just needed a little I feel like I just needed to get back into kind of a big network of people doing the same thing. So that's what's going on in my life.
Perfect. And yeah, we love the sort of global and cultural perspective that you're going to bring. So don't be surprised if other groups kind of lean on you in certain places to get a very different perspective. It's cool that that's where you're at.
Oh, sure. Please do.
I'll just kind of move down the line as I'm seeing here. Christy, if you want to go next.
Okay. I work at CU Denver. I'm the curriculum manager, the program manager for computer science and engineering. So I do their curriculum management, their HR, financial management, kind of boss everybody around and tell them what to do and try and keep the program running. We are, yeah, right now, sorry, I also have a cat. Right now we're really busy with the start of the semester, so it's a little bit crazy that way, but it's been kind of fun. And I'm really excited because we are changing our undergraduate curriculum for 2019. We have a really big change coming up, so that's been a lot of fun to work that, figure out the classes, how to communicate it to students and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, being on the inside of big systems is like the best and worst at times, but it's pretty cool to be able to see how big projects like that come to be. That's awesome. Well, let's move over to Laura Rose. And yes, animals are welcome. They frequently make their way into these webinars, so feel free.
Yeah, I figure this isn't quite formal enough where we need to go, lock all the pets away. So, yeah, so I'm Laura Rose. I previously was working toward a PhD in history and was really, that was the love of my life for a very long time. I really enjoy teaching people to think critically and to learn how to read sources, both from the past and from the present. And I really believe that the way that history is being taught is fossilized and dead. But the academic field is in flux. I don't know if any of you are currently at all linked to the humanities in universities, but it's bad. It's really bad, and it's getting worse. And it reached the point where I just had to bail. So I ended up working for an e-learning company and stumbled across this thing called instructional design. I was like, oh my God, where is this in my life? Why didn't I know this was a thing? So after spending a few years there, I decided to make it real and get involved with the program and learn more. So that's where I am.
Yeah, the story of the accidental instructional designer is one you'll hear often. So you're in good company with that story. Cool. So thanks. Let's go to, how about Jackie?
Okay, well, I am kind of exhausted because I spent way too long with a professor today trying to start the building of the course, his course, and it just was all over the place. And the case study that we read, had a chance to read that, but was just like my life, my daily life, but especially today, and just trying to talk about interactive learning and just getting a lot of blank stares. So I appreciate all we're learning here because I just live it every day. So that's just a little bit about my day, I guess.
No, I appreciate the honesty. And speaking of just frequent, I have respect and empathy for that sort of world where you can be on a really high point at times, and then it can be a real struggle. And that's, I think, being honest and open about when it is a struggle. There will be times in this course where that will be the case. And I think I hope that some of those struggles come with growth. I think they have for me. So being open and honest about, yep, this today sucked. I did not make the progress, whether it's a course or an instructor, whatever it is, that I thought I should. But fortitude is needed, and it gets tough sometimes. So anyway, thanks, Jackie. And yeah, tomorrow's another day.
Yeah, it's Friday, so there's that.
Good. And
no, it's also Friday, so there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The silver lining is
no, I have good days. So yeah.
And I didn't mean to paint it as if you came off with a sob story. I think it's just the reality of some of this sort of work. So let's go.
Yeah, but there's victory, so it's all right.
Yeah. Yep. And sorry, I know we're overlapping audio, but it's the issue with these sometimes. Let's go to Kurt.
So I'm kind of towards the end of this program. I've been taking one course each semester because I've been kind of a 40-hour work person, sometimes a 60-hour work person. So for a majority of this program, I've been teaching at Front Range Community College, interior design and CAD. So I did that for 5 years and just kind of got burnt out on my 40-hour job and being an adjunct and being a student. So right now I'm just taking this course and working on my 40-hour job. So my 40-hour job is a pretty big departure from formal instructional design. I'm a designer for a theme and play company. So I work with clients to basically create a space for their community. And my company also leans on me for any sort of instructional material right now. So I'm kind of working on a project. I'm not sure if you've checked out the projects that were posted, but it's a departure from the UN website, just because we have a really strong need for that assignment right now. And so I'm already kind of pulled in a couple different directions for the course requirements and then what my boss would like me to do or what our company needs right now. So this will be a really interesting time for me to kind of learn from some other more formal instructional designers, and then how I can almost be like an SME for our project and lean on some people internally to make something that's actually used for our company.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I certainly will always be of the mindset that keep with the broad perspective on what all this represents, given what your interests are, what your work looks like. We'll use certain terminology, whether it's instructional design or solution design. Those sorts of things will come up, but I think feel free at any point to frame that through your lens and keep it applicable. I'm glad you found somebody willing to go down that road with you, and I think you're approaching it perfectly, which is you've got a lot of insider sort of knowledge of what they're looking for and other requirements, from your company, but then leaning on this crew to then inject a different perspective to hopefully strengthen it. So that's just fine and perfect. Yep, I've already, I think, mentioned it, but yeah, I'm in full support of where you're headed with. There's two, I guess there's a parent company. It's World of Wow. What's the?
Playcore is a parent company, so I also have that. There's kind of two different missions at the same time as well, so
yeah,
it's different.
Cool. Well, yeah, love where you're headed. I'm excited to see how it comes together.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you.
Whoops, not mute. Last but not least here, Miranda.
Hey guys, so I don't know if you've already heard, but I teach first grade, so that is my 40 plus many more hours a week job. So I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum from Kirk. This is my very first grad school experience. This is my first class, so I'm only taking one class this semester. I'm not overwhelmed, surprisingly. I feel like I give myself enough time to do all of my quizzes and my readings, and I've been talking a lot with Patty, so it's been a really good experience so far. I actually stumbled across doing instructional design from a Facebook post, an article from this page I follow called We Are Teachers, and I've been thinking about what I want to do for my master's for like 2 or 3 years now, and I could never really decide. And then I'm kind of in the same boat as Laura Rose, just with education is very flawed, and so at some point down the line I realized that this might not be worth it in the end. It's very intrinsically rewarding, but very mentally draining, and there's just a lot of issues with teachers nowadays. So I kind of got a glimpse of what that might be like. So I stumbled upon this article about where classroom teachers go outside of the field or outside of the classroom, and instructional design was one of the top ones. So I did a little bit more research, and it was actually one of the careers that was most appealing to me. So that's how I stumbled across instructional design and why I'm here now.
Well, we're glad you're here. And there's a kind of a catch-22 element of knowing that there's issues and wanting to be involved in making the changes that you know need to happen. But what's the balance of also, like you said, getting really exhausted at times and realizing, you know, that exhaustion is causing you to not be able to make the changes that you know are needed. So it's like this weird paradox in education. Yeah, that story is echoed, and I think the advice I guess I have, or the approach I've taken is to feel good about rebalancing often. Like if you need to jump out, you go do something else for a while, then it re-energizes you to be able to come back in. So I think there's no shame in sort of making that jump when it needs to happen. I think that's the right approach.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for those quick intros. Again, we'll do a few of these and hopefully have some new faces, but just a good chance to get to know each other a little more. Already, I think being able to do something like this just creates a different dynamic, and we get to know each other on a different level. I'll run through. I have a few just sort of high level things to mention that I've been jotting down. Again, we're early on enough where I don't have a ton, but I'll go through those, and then I think it's just really open at that point. Happy to just take some questions or chat about other things, or say hi to our pets, or whatever direction we want to take it after that. The key things, and this comes up fairly often at this point in the course, after we've sort of nailed down some of the partnerships, gotten to know each other, gotten some topics selected. It's now this point of really trying to focus in as much as possible and make these projects reasonably achievable and not too broad. I think I'll say it probably too often, you'll get tired of it in the next week or two, is just focus, focus, focus. The more focused and clear you are on exactly what element of the sort of problem or group organization, the more focused you are on what you're trying to solve for that group and that audience, I promise the easier it will be. Staying too broad for too long.
Excuse me, Taylor, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's music playing. Does anybody else hear that?
And that's probably mine on my end.
Oh, okay.
So sorry.
I guess there's nothing to do about that. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but let me know if it's super distracting. I can actually move. Since I'm on my phone, I'm mobile. So let me know if it does get to be really distracting. I'll be pretty quick. I want to turn it over to you guys. So the focus piece, and again, that comes with identifying the knowledge, the skill, or the behavior or performance you're really looking to affect in the learners. I think that's also a key. There's a few topics that are sort of looking at how to affect something on an organizational level without thinking, what are we changing in the learners that are a part of that organization or part of that solution? So focus in on the learners and exactly what the instruction we're going to provide is going to change in them as people. And we'll think through that more as we're building out these learner personas. That's kind of the key to that first part of this analysis phase, is to really think about what is it like to be that learner. So focus, figuring out what that gap really is. And again, the more focused we can be on what that gap is. And I put some examples out to some folks, but really like strangely overly focused is actually okay. And we can broaden out from there. But like, you know, we have a group, this is all hypothetical, but a group of learners within a university ages 18 to 22 that, you know, are a part of a nursing program that don't have the full skill set to be able to implement a specific CPR related task. I mean, again, I'm probably I'm going too far, but you get the idea of just as focused as we can be. It allows us to be really creative in the solutions we can develop, because we can really hone in on really interesting ways to solve that problem. Anyway, I've beaten that horse to death, but you get the idea. And then the last piece is that I'll mention is to avoid the allure of looking at solutions. And there's been a lot of, you guys have already put a ton of work into like really researching and getting all like the sort of backstory and material around these organizations and problems, pulling all that together, which is like you'll use all that. It's great, but that knowing all that often leads us to try to go and think through what these solutions will be and what specific tools, and doing that now gets us caught into this idea of, oh wait, I thought I was designing this thing, and now I've learned about what the problem really is and what these learners really are, and now I'm realizing it doesn't align to this solution I've already sort of, pre-constructed in my head. So avoid. It's hard not to. You want to sort of, given our knowledge, we want to already think through what those solutions will look like, but let that go for now, and we'll definitely have time to spend on really digging into some of those specifics on what the solution should be. So stay in the phase of analysis for now. I guess that's the key there. So I know I've got noise in the background. I'm going to be quiet for a little while. What other questions are out there, given some of that, or any thoughts on what's to come? And then I'll either jump in or let you guys kind of chat about it too. I know there's a ton of knowledge and experience in this small group. This is about half of us that are here. So yeah, feel free. Jackie, I saw a hand go up.
So basically you're saying we can't have faculty as our learners. That's too big. It needs
no,
to
I'd
be
say
like
you
a
could have
subset of the faculty.
You could have faculty, if it's a specific gap that all faculty are demonstrating,
Okay.
that's probably okay. But you'll see as you build out the learner personas, the whole goal of those is to pick an individual. So that's super focused. I mean, that's the goal with those personas, is to, okay, we might be trying to solve a problem for all faculty, but let me dig into what the reality of this one representative case of this umbrella of faculty represents. So yeah, you can stay broad,
So
just know that the solution will have to be focused.
So you are looking for just one learner persona rather than multiple?
People go, I think the requirement is one, and I had a requirement of 2 personas for the summer semester. So let me know if something didn't get changed and it says 2 somewhere. Some of the samples that are up there probably do have 2, which is why I say just focus on the requirements of these assignments, because I've pulled example projects from past semesters that had different requirements.
Okay.
So up to you in some ways. I'm certainly open if you feel better about, each of you taking one and learning from each other by each doing one, that's okay. But at least one that's fully built out. Again, based on some of the reading and other material, you'll see the sections that need to be included in those. But if you have an interest in doing more than one, I'm not going to say no.
Okay.
But for good reason. Yeah, make sure there's good reason behind it.
So it seems like I love your word of the allure of looking at the solutions, because I think that's the sexy part, and the analysis is the hard, dirty, impossible task. And so I think from our experience as a team, we were, I guess, frankly, I felt like I didn't have enough time to look at all of it and really come up with a good analysis, so we were just kind of throwing things together and came up with a lot of great material. Laura Rose did amazing work. High five. So I guess I wanted to ask so we're looking at a solution, getting very focused on what the problem, who the learners are and what their problem is, what the gap of knowledge is, and then kind of zooming back out to create a solution.
Yep. And again, realize, we're not even building solutions in this course.
Right.
So we have 60 weeks to get to a solid plan.
Right.
And realistically, when we look at problems that are at the scale of some of the stuff that's on the UN site, some of these are a smaller scale, which is fine. But that sort of time is really involved to do it right and ensure that resources aren't being wasted. So
okay.
Yeah, this course is like, what does it look like to to really, the other thing I'll say is we're kind of taking a broad, this is sort of the full gamut of things you might build into a plan. It's, if taking the most realistic approach to this sort of work, you wouldn't necessarily have every one of these components.
Right, but we're so cold to this material that it probably is necessary.
Yeah, or just giving you the exposure to the different pieces that likely get built into these sorts of things. So it's not quite authentic. You do this work enough, and I think there's some in this course that have done this work enough to know that once you have this sort of broad toolkit, then you just sort of pick and choose, and you can move a little quicker through the process.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously we're keep that in. That's good perspective, is that we're over the course of 16 weeks looking to basically just build a sound plan. I don't even care if we have any real like tangible, clear path towards the solution. In a lot of ways, like there can be a really good plan and say, the full built out solution is still kind of foggy, but I can really see how I'd get there if I had more time and more resources and people and everything else to really build it out. So keep the planning piece in mind. This is really a planning course.
Okay.
I can barely hear whoever just said that last thing.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, I've been having problems with my microphone, so I will project classroom voice. So the problem that I think /good thing with using the UN for ideas is that many of the projects are extremely broad and are also with an intended audience that's either extremely broad or extremely specific to a region that we as primarily North Americans don't know much about, which adds to the challenge. But for example, for what Vicki and Daryl and I are doing, I've actually been trying to get an idea of what this might look like on the ground by looking up case studies of training programs that have been done for he for she type advocacy. So trying to get guys involved in the discussion around gender, and then like maybe use that to come up with something. It's a bit abstract, but I agree with what you said, Taylor, that right now we're just kind of like building all of this background knowledge, and then from that background knowledge, we're going to get things that we can actually work with.
Yeah, it's nothing I'm going to have an answer for. I guess what I'll say is by the end of all this, you guys are all going to know a lot more about these organizations and what's needed to build out for all these than I ever will. Like I'm just not going to have the same depth of knowledge of the specifics of the organization and stuff. My focus is like, what does your process look like for working through these various components? So it's really up to you whether you want to take a very realistic and like, look at it as if you really were going to, build out this solution. And again, there's definitely been projects that have come out of the course that got fully implemented. And obviously, for some of these global problems and social issues coming through the UN site, you might not get to that point. But it's up to you how realistic and taking on the most sort of authentic approach to planning these solutions as you want, or also you can go more of a hypothetical route and say, we're going to tweak this component, or we're going to assume this about these learners. I get that you're never going to know, and it would be insensitive in a lot of ways probably to assume we know everything about the learners in a, like you said, another region of the world that we just don't have experience with. So I'll be understanding of, or at least make it known where you're sort of making assumptions for the purpose of the course, and really focusing in on the process, not so much getting a full understanding of the region or the people.
But at least a lot of room for interpretation, which is good on our part. We can take it any direction that we want.
Yep, and it's just depends so much on you can already get a sense for like where Kirk's headed versus where you guys are headed. Just such different worlds altogether. So it just depends on what you're focused on. And as long as as long as it's clear to me and others that are taking a peek, where you're coming from. I wouldn't say there's definitely not a right or wrong way to approach it. That's my non-answer, but you're looking at it the right way. You're building a lot of knowledge right now, and that has to be the case with a solution like yours, where you're just tackling a much bigger problem and a different a global reach in another region. Yeah, totally get it. Anything else? I'm going to keep muting strategically here because I know you guys are getting this strange, like, romantic jazz in the background. I don't know what this is.
I kind of have a question about, it sounds like because we're taking a course, we're kind of making assumptions about things, and because we have limited time, and because I have limited experience with design planning for this type of thing. So I was under the impression that, like, officially, for my example, working with the company, maybe there'd be like a survey that would go out to our clients, and we would have data that was collected over a period of time. For example, one of the questions could be, how comfortable are you with technology, or how comfortable are you with architectural plans and interior design knowledge? Because those two things are kind of something that we struggle with just from my experience. So I can only rely on my experiential knowledge and my 7 years of experience working with the company to kind of make these assumptions, because we don't have any surveys or any sort of actual data to use. So I think my big struggle right now is, like, how do I actually start, and how do I not rely on my assumptions or my bias and get actual data to make decisions?
Yeah, your case is a little different because you're looking at things more on the, like, ground floor in a more practical sense. This is a company that you're intimately familiar with, that exists, that is doing work. I would say, I think you can still, like, something like a learner persona can still be built out, I think, probably with what you know, without making a ton of assumptions, or you might actually be able to get access to somebody that is a potential learner and do a quick little interview of sorts, or gather some of that. I don't know how much, like, direct access you have like that. So feel free to go down that road, or let me know if any of these projects or components can be kind of modified. I'm open to giving a little flexibility on how they're approached, but just let me know in advance, because as I'm working through grading things, I kind of have specific things I want to look at. And if it's like, oh no, I know Kirk is actually substituting this kind of piece of this component and going about it a little differently, as long as I know that up front, then I'm fine with you sort of making the tweak or introducing a survey to gather a little more data. But I also don't make it overwhelming. Like, I don't want it, you've got to balance what's too much and what's realistic to both fulfill what you have going on professionally, but also, I wouldn't want what's going on in the course to suffer in some ways because you over-invested in trying to get it to be this perfectly built out grand. And you're right, in a perfect world, it's like we do a ton of focus groups and like you said, gather data through surveys, and you probably go through a lot of that. It's going to be a balance. Look at the components, make sure you're kind of hitting the marks on any of the major assignments. If there's a clear spot where you just feel like you'd rather invest somehow a little differently, it can't be like, we're going to throw out the personas and do this other thing. I think that sort of process of building empathy for our learners matters. That's kind of the key behind the personas. So tweaking is fine. Just let me know up front that you're going to make a little change, and then also balance. Just make sure you're, not killing yourself by building out a lot more than is required in the actual course.
Yeah, that sounds good. And part of my question too is just for me to have a sense of the reality of the profession. What would be typical in a corporate setting, as an example? Would it be surveys? Is it observation? Is it a number of things? How is it typically building that empathy for a learner? How is that typically done in most cases?
I would probably, in some ways open this up to the group. I certainly don't have all the answers. I have less experience in the corporate world, but I've done a fair amount of projects. I know I'm in higher ed deeper. And I would say that comes back to this toolkit idea. Like, depending, the best IDs are those that have, they've got 10 different versions of how to build empathy and understand our learners, whether that's a persona or a focus group. So it's going to depend on the context of, I just don't know your company and organization well enough to say, oh, it's clearly this way of going about it's going to be the best. So like I said, if you feel like there is just a better way to do it and that the personas, the way they're laid out, aren't going to quite get you the data you want or the information you want, then we can look at another way to go about it. Anybody else have experience just sort of from a analysis or just getting to know our learners a little better from that perspective from work you've done?
We do a lot of observation and talking to our clients about what their points of pain are. And we have focus groups, and which is kind of the prototype step for our products. And we send out a lot of surveys at the end to the end user so our problem is missing, our clients are not the end user. So we have to kind of understand who our clients are and also understand who the end users are, so that we come at it in all different kinds of ways. And it's also a process that takes a very long time. And it's just kind of over the years, you finally kind of drill down, and people change. So that's the other thing. And climates change. So it's always changing.
Yeah, I mean, in the perfect world, you're never out of the analysis phase, because you're constantly, all of this work you'll see as we go is very cyclical and iterative. It's, on whatever time scale you'll want to sort of reassess where your learners are, certainly with how much technology and everything's changing and globalization, all these elements, I think, lead back to the need to constantly be in a mode of analysis, whatever that looks like for that particular solution or problem. Because that's a good call. Things change.
What Vicki, you mentioned with many times the people that you're building things for aren't actually the end users. That's something that I encountered a lot with the e-learning company that I was working with, where we didn't know many times who would be signing up for these courses within a larger international company. And so we were relying a lot of the time on information that was being given to us, but also a lot of empathy, trying to approach it from many different points of view. So a lot of imagination, actually, and trying to imagine what this course would be like if you were, say, a male, fairly traditional employee in Saudi Arabia. How would you interpret this course differently than someone else? Are there any places that you might get hung up or that would need clarification? Even should we have a male narrator in English for our English, or should we have a female narrator? Because that can really vary from country to country. It turns out Germany, it's a terrible idea to have a female narrator. People won't pay attention to it, especially the guys. And yeah, no, it's really, there's a lot of very interesting research out there that you can use, but it also has to come from a place of empathy and really expanding your horizons on that point.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly it. I think there'll be a lot of points in this course where I'll give a non-answer and just say it's contextual, or it depends on the learner. Yeah, it's just it's the life of this sort of work is that you never really have the answers, and hopefully the goal of the course is to give us a good solid foundation, and then we all evolve our own, both tool sets, but also as we look into some of these models, you'll see over time, you're like, for whatever reason, just kind of, design thinking is kind of my way of approaching things. And I don't know what it is, but like, you'll see that you just sort of naturally gravitate. So try to absorb as much as possible, but also realize we're taking this big, broad brushstroke, and it's perfectly reasonable that you'll sort of refine the things that really make sense for you, as we go. And that's just the reality of it. I think, yeah, Kirk, for you, I can see where it's more real for you. So you, it's going to be tougher in some ways, certainly through the analysis phase. And the nice thing about why I really value partnerships and not doing these things individually is early on, you might kind of have to step away and say, I know too much here, and I'm not going to be helpful because I have way too many preconceptions about how I think everything is, should be or is, and let some of the other just very objective opinions come through. And then the hard thing for designers is then we have to stay true to whatever that information is and say, okay, this doesn't quite feel right, but it's the reality of what's coming through in some of this analysis. I've got to stay true to that and try to design a solution that meets the reality of our learners.
Taylor, I just based on what Kirk is asking for, and Kirk, I'm sorry if I just cut you off.
Oh, no, that's all right. I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. To that end, is there anything, you've given us so many materials, and I appreciate that, but I find that asking good questions, either in a focus group or in a survey or in an evaluation, is very, it seems like it's almost academic. There's a way to do it. And I was just wondering if there's any particular, if you could point me in the direction of that resource, or I'm sure it's all over the place, but
yeah,
any
and
ideas?
You guys will get the sense it's going to be more than you need. We've got these resource walls, and there's too much, and I don't expect everyone to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but at any point when this sort of thing comes up, just shoot it. I love trying to provide, what I can, and again, as often as we can, put it out to the group, put it out in the virtual cafe or somewhere where others can. Like I said, I know I'm far from. I've got experience in this course, but I certainly don't have the same experience across the board in doing this sort of work. So leverage the community. The one thing I'll say as far as questioning that I've gotten a lot of value out of is a group called the Right Question Institute, RQI. And you're right. There's a ton of value.
The Right Questions
Institute, RQI, Right Question Institute. It's research out of Stanford. Dan Rothstein, he's got a book called Asking the Right Question, I think. They have a great model that I think has resonated well. They do a lot of work in younger K-12 settings, but they basically flip this idea of, and those that are I think Miranda, this will be familiar to you, but there's a lot of focus on having focus questions, and they flip that and say it really should be a question focus. Anyway, interesting work that leads towards really good. It's a whole protocol built around how to get to a core set of refined questions that really is going to be meaningful. So they have a protocol that would be worth looking at.
Yeah, that's a fantastic suggestion. So definitely going to check it out. And Stanford's put out a lot of really useful sources. I think it's their School of Design has an entire site dedicated to empathy and how to build empathy with learners. I'll see if I can look that up, because I remember finding that, and it was really useful as well.
That's one of his wonderful resources, right, Taylor?
So the D School is part, but I think actually Laura Rose might be referencing. I think they do have a more focused empathy piece that isn't. I'm sure they're connected with the D School, but anyway, the model that. One of those models that we looked at, came straight out of Stanford, and they've done a ton of good work around empathy and analysis. There's the Stanford History Education Group is another. They've done a lot of work in questioning, and again, a lot of this is coming from, I guess, for younger audiences. It doesn't apply as well for adults, but still a lot to gain from it. So the other piece I do usually with these, I'll pull a lot of these resources in the, hopefully we'll get a recording out of this. I think we will. I still see the little red dot. And I'll share the recording with everybody as well as throwing some of these resources together in an announcement so everybody can have that for reference. So we are about 10 from the hour here, and I am perfectly open to hanging and chatting, but definitely want to respect people's time. Since I know it's getting late for some, we're spanning a lot of time zones. So if anyone has to jump out, feel free to do that. And I'll leave the floor open here for about 10 seconds. And if anybody has anything else, we can chat. If I don't hear a peep, then we'll probably sign off.
I guess the only thing I have to say is that it's kind of been entertaining to try to guess what the song in the background is. Because sometimes just a little bit, I'm like, oh, I think I know what it is, but no.
You think you have it, and then you don't.
Exactly, but a few of them, I think I have been able to guess. It's amazing what compression does to music.
And somebody that lives in this world, like, it's not good practice to be on public Wi-Fi that isn't reliable, to have background audio that is a bit distracting. So thank you guys for humoring me with it. I'll be self-critical anyway, so I know you're having fun with it, which is good. So thank you.
I have a general question, learning persona. Just generally, if as we go along, we're in week 5 and we discover that we didn't really know our learner, or we created this persona that wasn't quite right, and each part of this project, do you want us to go back and tweak and refine and change, or would you rather that be part of a debrief at the end where we say, wow, we really learned this? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. You're always welcome to revisit any of these components. I would say probably across 90% of all projects, by the final solution design document, you will have modified every component previous in some way. Maybe not overhauled, but as you're building this plan that is going to evolve, and so you'll learn things that will make you rethink other pieces. So yes, always open to revisit it, and I'm happy to also go back, modify points, and I'm flexible as we move back and forth. That's just the nature of the course. So yeah, you should and definitely will revisit some of the components. So